Welcome back. So this is the good, the bad and the ugly. What to include in your diets, what to limit and what to avoid altogether. Okay, so the good. First things first, fruit and veg. These are the things I recommend the most to include in your diet. Mainly because they're very nutritional. They contain all the vitamins and amino acids that you need, and they're great. But also because they're high in fibre, which is indigestible things that fill you up, so it makes you feel fuller for longer. And this is why I've put in brackets not fruit juices. Fruit juices are basically fruit without the fibre in. So even though they have natural sugars in it, it's still sugars. And by taking out the fibre, it means you can drink, not eat, so drink a lot more, which means the natural sugars go higher. So for example, if I told you to eat 3 oranges, I'm pretty sure you'd struggle to eat a fourth, or you wouldn't want to eat a fourth. You'd have no intention of eating 4 oranges in one sitting. However, if I say there's 3 oranges in half a glass of orange juice, you could quite easily drink half a glass, and then you could probably even drink another half a glass, to be honest. So by getting rid of that fibre, it stops you from feeling fuller, and so you don't have that limit, so you keep drinking, which is why fruit juices can be dangerous, especially if they're quite high in sugar. Carbohydrates, so carbs. A lot of people think this is the enemy in weight loss, and to an extent they can be, but we don't want to exclude them completely. Carbs are your primary fuel source, so your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. If you don't know what that is, Google it, NEAT. Those are things like walking the dog, doing the washing, going to the shopping. If you don't have carbs in your diet, all of that will decrease. So you'll feel sluggish, you'll feel lethargic, you won't have any energy. You go to training sessions and you won't be able to train very well, which means you burn less at training sessions. So carbs are really your fuel for the day. They make you feel energetic. Now obviously we don't want to over consume them, because they can be high in calories, and they can take you out of that deficit, but we definitely don't want to exclude them completely. They are good for us. Okay, protein with 2 exclamation marks, because protein is brilliant. You cannot over consume protein, so your body can't store it. So the only way it can, when you eat too much of it, your body just has to get rid of it in your wee, basically. So you can't overeat and you can't get fat from eating protein. You also need protein to build muscles. Bigger muscles means more calories burned, which means more likely to be in a calorie deficit. So protein is a big thumbs up. The only thing you've got to be careful with is if you're eating protein, you need to be careful what it comes with. So some protein sources can have high fats, can have high carbs. Protein drinks as well, some of them come with carbohydrate supplements. So you need to be careful what your protein comes with. But in terms of just protein on its own, it's a big thumbs up. It also makes you feel fuller, so it's got a satiating effect. Fats has the opposite, so if you eat fats you want to crave more fats, but protein makes you feel less hungry. And that brings me on to fat. So fats can be another enemy of weight loss. People get very scared when talking about fats and trying to lose weight. Your body needs fats. It's essential for living. It's used in hair, it's used in nails, all metabolic reactions. It's used for protection of vital organs. It's used for loads of stuff. So you can't cut it out of your diet completely. If you do, some people make the mistake of getting rid of fat completely. If you do that, your body sort of goes into Neanderthal survival mode. So your body needs fats. So if you're not given fat in your diet, your body will cling on to the fats that it's got to make sure that it doesn't lose it. So you need fats in your diet, and you need to keep giving your body fat so that it doesn't cling on to the fat that it's got. But we'll look into that in more detail on the next slide. Okay, so that brings me on to the bad. So these are things you want to be careful with. So you want to moderate. You don't want to overconsume. First things first, sugar. This is quite common. Most of you guys should know all of these anyway. But sugar is a big thing that's overconsumed in our diet. Mainly, I think probably because it's hidden in a lot of foods that we don't realise it's there. A lot of sauces contain quite a lot of high sugar, and we've got to be careful. Sugar is a great source of energy if you want to use it instantly. So if you're exercising, a lot of sports drinks will have sugar in them. in the form of glucose, because it's great because it's so easily used and so quickly used as a fuel. But if you're not exercising and you're not doing anything and you're just eating sugar sat on the sofa, it needs to be taken out of the blood, and to do that it gets basically bundled together as a bigger molecule and stored as fat. So you've got to be careful when consuming sugar not to overconsume, and especially when we're not exercising. Okay, wheat. So wheat is another one that's associated with weight gain. This is the molecule gluten, which is found in breads, pastas, rices, and you have got to be careful because it is quite high in the glycemic index, which means that it can cause weight gain. It's also been linked to other factors like inflammation. You can Google something called wheat belly. So that's something you've got to be careful of. Dairy as well is another product that's overconsumed. Dairy, which has the molecule lactose, that can be quite overconsumed, especially in the Western diet. So things like cheeses, milk, yogurts. Although that's quite healthy fats, you need to be careful that you don't overconsume them. It's quite easy to overconsume sort of cheese, especially if you're a big cheese lover. High GI. So GI stands for glycemic index, which is basically how quickly your body can use the fuel. So how high in sort of, I guess it's sugar basically. So you've got to be careful with high GI foods. They're good if you're exercising. So if you're going to do a training session, you might have something that's high GI about an hour before to give you some energy. Which is why in brackets I put sometimes, because it is useful. If you're running a marathon, you want or if you're doing a training session just before, you want a spike in glucose, so you give yourself some energy. But it's not good if you're sat on the sofa or if you're at work, you're not doing anything. High GI can be detrimental to weight loss as well. So that's something we've got to look at. Okay, this brings me on to the ugly. So these are the things you need to really avoid at all costs. Refined sugars. These are pretty bad. These are sort of things that are found in sweets, ice creams, chocolate, cake. You know, they're really they're okay for a treat every now and then, but you don't want to be consuming them on a regular basis because they will cause weight gain. Pre-bedtime feasts, just before you're going to sleep. This again leads me on to the sugar. So if you have any sugar, anything that's high in sugar, anything high in carbs, sugar and carbs are an energy source, and if your body doesn't use them, it gets converted to fat. So if you're eating a high energy meal just before you go to bed, you're not going to burn that off, and so it gets transformed straight into fat. So that's something that's another big thing for weight gain. Alcohol. This is obviously pretty obvious. Alcohol is a poison. So when you're consuming alcohol, your body prioritizes it to get rid of it first. There's actually an energy content in alcohol, so your body can use it for energy. And the reason why people get things like beer bellies is because when you consume alcohol, your body switches from using your body fats and your fuels that you've eaten throughout the day and changes to burning that alcohol off. To give you a bit of an idea, there are 4 kilocalories in carbohydrates, there are 7 kilocalories in alcohol, and there are 9 kilocalories in fat. So that sort of gives you an idea of how calorific alcohol can be. So you want to avoid drinking excessive alcohol. Now I'm not going to tell you to cut out alcohol completely, because that's, some people enjoy a little drink every now and then, and it would be stupid and very naive of me to tell you to cut it out completely. But you need to be aware of it. Sports drinks at the wrong times. Now we've touched on this a little bit. Sports drinks contain glucose mainly, which is a sugar molecule, and it's great if you're going for a training session or if you're going for a run. Sports drinks are great for giving you that energy burst. Now at the wrong times, this can be really, really bad for you. So if you ever see people drinking Lucozades or drinking Gatorades when they're sat down doing nothing, it really baffles me, to be honest, because the whole point of a sports drink is to give you energy to do sports or to do exercise. Now, if you're not using that energy, then it's going to get converted straight to fat. So if you're at the pub and you're drinking Lucozade, or if you go to a shop and you buy a Lucozade and you're not doing anything, all that sugar and all that energy that in that sports drink is going to be converted to fat. So these are the sort of things you've got to watch out for. Okay, so to summarize, moderation, moderation, moderation. So you might have heard the phrase, everything is good for you in moderation, which is true. You need to moderate things, and you need to be aware of things that you need to be careful of eating too much of, which are the things we've discussed before. Timings, so not eating things, just eat high energy foods before you go to bed, not drinking sports drinks when you're laying on the sofa, things like that. So you need to be aware of when you eat, and also not just what you eat, but when you eat. Sneaky sugars, these are things that you don't necessarily sugars are in. So like I said, sauces is quite a suspect of that one as well. And also you can have some other snacks that pose as healthy snacks but actually quite high in sugar, so you need to be aware of that. Just check the label and have a look. And awareness, so being aware of the things to avoid, the things to limit, to be in moderation of, and also the things that you consume quite freely without worrying about.